My name's Andy Taylor, and I am joined, as always, well, usually by Stuart and Isaac. And we've got Isaac back having survived a trip to Stoke to see Bradford versus Port Vale, wasn't it?
Yeah, Portland.
Was it? What was better, being in Port Vale or being on the Inseparable podcast?
Oh, it's never nice going to Port Vale, is it? Well, let's be honest. I think it's at least we got 3 points. So
I think where I was last week was better than being in Port Vale.
Anywhere's better. Anywhere's better than Port Vale.
In the jail cell.
I don't know. Did you see where I was staying? Did you hear what?
In the jail cell. I did see.
Did you hear what the viewers were saying? Jeez.
You did look like you were being locked up. To be fair,
hideous times.
Yeah. So the good news is that #FreeStew did catch fire, and he is free, and he is out of his jail cell.
We have paid his bail bond, right?
Absolutely, and he's back on the sofa, ready to talk BUCS football and everything that's going on around the contact world. Because as always, we are back here for our weekly podcast to bring you our thoughts on the results that happened this weekend, which is obviously the semi-finals of the BUCS 2025-2026 season. And then looking ahead to Touchdown Tuesday, which I didn't copyright, unfortunately, which is happening on Tuesday. And we've also got the Tier 2 semi-finals happening, haven't we? Coming up as well, which we'll touch on. We obviously want to get into the preview of the finals because they're obviously really big stuff, and then we'll obviously wait for the Conference Cups to conclude later down in the next couple of weeks as well. Not really much news otherwise. We normally try and get into some news where there is some. We're still waiting on confirmation of the fixtures for the summer season, which is the 18th of March, which is a struggle.
5 weekends away. There's 5 Sundays until the start of the season.
We have the NWFL. We have the women's contact. That's confirmed. That's in the books. We've got graphics ready to go. So we've got one out of 4.
Yeah, we do. We do have under 19s Div 2. We do have NWFL both, don't we? And I think we have some flag. I think the NFFL is out, but I think that's it though, isn't it? We're waiting on mixed adult, we're waiting on under 19s Div 1 and under 16s because we know that there were some health check issues in those formats, didn't we? But I think what we once feared for the health checks for NWFL never came to pass, did they? Thankfully, all survived and all is still there as far as I can tell in them. So that's really positive. So when we do get them, and we do think that they'll be very, very soon. I don't think there's much to wait on now. Obviously, the big bombshell was London Warriors disappearing only 2 weeks ago, and that'll mess any timelines up, won't it? So we'll obviously, once we've got them, we'll get back together and we'll break down what we think from the fixtures point of view, but also, try and get excited for a summer season, which by now we've normally previewed and we're normally well into the pre-season, aren't we? So we'll have to catch up with ourselves before then. But I think that's pretty much it, isn't it? We're still waiting on the confirmation on London Warriors, which is probably the worst kept secret, that London Warriors will be part of the AFLA at some point. But that's pretty much it as far as I'm well. Congratulations to the Coventry Cougars, who are national champions of the flag football, the Women's Flag Football League, and that happened up in Ravenscraig last weekend. Aaron and Kiwi were there, and I know Aaron, Kiwi, and Nick got together. And that podcast dropped this morning, didn't it? We are recording on Wednesday. So go over to our YouTube channel, head over to your podcast platforms and pick up that review of the finals. Coventry Cougars winning 10 in 11 years, which is just stupid dominance, isn't it? But
is there a professional flag football European league that we might see a move to, much like another dominant team in the UK?
Let's start one.
Thankfully, I don't think there is yet. But But that's a discussion for another time, isn't it? Because that pyramid's working quite well, isn't it? By the looks of it, there'll be plenty of people in the flag world that'll be concerned about some things going on, but they're winning in Europe, they're winning in Worlds. Things are going okay in the domestic league there, aren't they? But yeah, maybe for another podcast we'll save that for.
We should just have one of my wild ideas I've got, like an FA Cup version of the Summer League.
Yeah.
Let's get that going.
Yeah.
Let's I don't know. Yeah. Get the Aztecs down to Pontefract,
Yeah. Come up to Humber.
Wild.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. That's enough chit chat. Let's get into the playoff brackets, because we had the semi-finals of the Prem National, which concluded as we kind of previewed. Stuart, didn't they? Let's have a little look at these. I'm so happy to have this layout finally sorted, and we can actually talk through the graphics and provide our viewers with something to look at. But yeah, Stuart, we kind of suggested that this is the way it would go. Were there any surprises to you? Any insights that we were given from these matches over the weekend? And take us through it.
Surprises, no. Insight, a little bit. On Saturday, both games actually were live streamed. On Saturday, I don't know whether anybody caught the Bullets versus Gold game. I was unfortunately working, so I didn't. But Bullets seemed to sort of take the early sort of advantage in that one, as we kind of thought they would. And then Ethan got injured by all accounts, and they started to go to some sort of wildcat formation, and in doing so sort of opened the door a little bit for a comeback for Gold. It got back to 31-20, 30-something 21, and got to sort of squeaky bum time, and it's just did Bullets things and put another couple of scores and sort of ran away with that. And in the final, and then on the Sunday, we saw the Durham Saints play the Loughborough Saints. The kit guy for Loughborough didn't have a particularly good day. They, by all accounts, they left the jerseys in Loughborough, so ended up wearing the black jerseys of the Durham Saints. So yeah, when I tuned in originally on the live stream, I didn't notice it, and then we had a couple of taggers in their albums and collaborate with us, and it was only after I started to look through the photographs that I noticed that they were wearing jerseys. So yeah, that was interesting. And then there's been a few memes recently, and it's amusing. Yeah, Durham did what they have done all season, and they just churned out a result, just kept putting scores on the boards after drives. One interesting thing, if you want to try and go back and find it, is that Loughborough scored off a fake field goal. Their second touchdown was a bit of backyard football. Let's draw it up, and yeah, scored off a fake field goal from about 30-odd yards as well. They just sort of squeaked out one of their edge guys. Holder stood up, threw the ball to him, and went in for a 30-odd yard touchdown, which was probably the highlight of their day, I would probably say. But it was good to see.
Yeah,
but yeah, Durham now become the home team, so they will. Ironically, they'll get the choice of shirts that they wear. And then, yeah, it's a repeat of the final a couple of years ago where Bullets ran out 50-odd points. Yeah, Bullets run out 50-odd point winners. I don't think it's going to be like that this season. I think this is going to be a matchup for the ages, and I think we're going to see a really, really good fixture to round out BUCS Touchdown Tuesday next week.
Well, let's park the preview for now. But we obviously had the so Durham, just for those who are listening, won 49-13 against Loughborough, and Bullets won 42-21 against Gold. Isaac, before we get into previewing Saints versus Bullets, which is a mouth-watering prospect for a championship final, and thankfully a slight change-up. So before we get into that, any sort of thoughts on the semi-final matchups? Because we obviously didn't get your thoughts last week for those. Did they work out the way you thought they were going to work out?
Yeah, 100%. I think the Durham Loughborough game, I think Loughborough are just happy to be there. In the nicest way possible, they are just making up the numbers of that fourth seed. It'd have been an absolute shock if they were to go and win. I think that their main aim each year in the national would be survival. It gives them something to grow on going forward, and especially this year with how tight it got going down to the last game against Leeds Beckett. Where Beckett were leading at some point in that game. It kind of showed that this game for Loughborough, it could have taken the back seat a little bit, and their exec definitely did. But yeah, no. And then that the UE Nottingham game, I don't know. I always thought that Nottingham could surprise us. Obviously, their QB going down injured. A lot of their scholars have gone down injured at the same time. A lot of green guys were getting calls up after they got knocked out the week before. It was a side that was very much everyone in the Nottingham program working together, kind of thing. And I think that you showed that when Ethan got injured and Nottingham could start getting back into the game. It showed that that's kind of what a Jason Scott team can do at times. If you give them a chance, you leave that door open a little bit, they'll find ways to really start going at you. And I think one of them was a punt block that the guy just caught and took it straight into the end zone. I've seen that somewhere on social media in the last few days. So again, it's finding little ways to win where Nottingham can be really good. But again, I think that it's not a surprising final. I think it's what we probably all expected in the last few weeks of the season. But definitely, it's going to be really interesting to see if how both sides came out of these games, and if Ethan Gretzinger is going to be fit for it, or a Durham going to face against a Wildcat. Kind of, who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think we got some messages to suggest that he got rolled up on, and I just noticed that he's joined us on Instagram as well. So hopefully he is fit, because that will lead us nicely into an amazing final, won't it? Mm-hmm. And it would be disappointing to hear that he would be injured for that. So let's hope that he isn't.
You just look at the final in the summer, and for that Bristol Aztecs game, he pretty much put them on their back. Yeah. I remember watching that and the amount of great plays that he made, to get Bristol over the line. Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think did he score the winning touchdown as well, or somewhere in that, it's going to definitely be a blockbuster final if the main man is there for UWE.
So let's go there then, because obviously next Tuesday we've got the final that we've kind of been expecting for a number of weeks now, certainly since Durham took one to gold, didn't they? And then obviously took one to UE in their place. This is a neutral field in a sense. Durham will know it all right, fine, but UE know it very well. Don't they? And there's no real sort of travel basis here. So if we go by the results, it was a 23-point game in Durham, and then it was I'm trying to quickly get to it. It was a 11-point game in UE. So on a neutral field, there isn't much to take away from both teams, is there really? What are your expectations, Isaac, for this? Is this going to be a really close game, or is this going to be, potentially? I'll start again with the question. I feel as if this is a final that could go either way for once. We feel that way.
Yeah, and we kind of said that last year as well. If you can remember when it were Nottingham against UE and both sides ended up beating each other in each other's back gardens and stuff like that. It had all the hallmarkings for that, but I think this year is different. I think this year, with the talent that Durham Saints have, the way that they've been able to use that talent constantly through the season, we know how good UE are. We know the talent that they can bring over, the coaches they've got down there. If you want to hear from their coaches, go back and listen to one of my whatever we call it, weekend kickoff things from a couple of weeks ago with Sam Astley, one of their UE2's coaches. But you get the thing of they're all kind of together in that a little bit, a lot more than what they give out, anyways. But definitely, it's a game that's going to be tight. It's going to be a close one. But again, I think there's going to be some big moments in the game, and whoever can get on top of them big moments is the one who at the end of the day is going to come out on top. I've seen Durham play in the flesh, and when I did, they were incredible that day. I think you could see why they're in the final, because they were just relentless in everything, on defense, offense, special teams. The kicker they've got, which in British American football you don't normally get the best kickers in the world, but this guy's pretty much automatic from wherever he wants to go. So definitely it's going to be interesting. It's going to be one of the highlights of the BUCS Big Wednesday, Touchdown Tuesday kind of couple of days.
Yeah, and it feels like it feels quite reminiscent of Brit Bowl in a sense. It feels like the Bullets are the London Warriors of which is ironic, obviously, considering who the programs that we're talking about here and the head coach of the Bullets. But it feels like the Durham Saints are, are the Bristol Aztecs coming into this, trying to get that one over, because UE will not go anywhere. We know that for a fact. UE will be in this game from minute 1 to minute 60, and it feels like that Durham will either they'll just have to hang in there, and not let their heads drop it when things don't go their way, because it won't go their way the whole time. But do you feel confident, Stuart, that Durham will make a game of this, considering we'll all be a little bit hesitant about giving Durham, the confidence, if you like, because of who they are going into a final with?
Yeah, I genuinely do think that they will compete. The two previous scores, you have to sort of put a little asterisk, I think, against the Durham score in Durham, because that was sort of against UE Bullets light, because they were missing several players on that day, weren't they? From all accounts that we were told. So I think with both teams at full strength, this becomes a very competitive, very interesting, very bright lights final at the end of Touchdown Tuesday that will be live streamed. We'll be there. I think everybody in their right minds will be there. I know that BUCS are selling tickets. They put out a story today, so yeah, head over to BUCS, get your tickets, and turn up, and let's make this like the spectacle of Touchdown Tuesday. Yes, there are two other fantastic games, but this one, yeah, is really going to light the blue touch paper at the end of the day. Isn't it just? Isn't it just?
And do you feel it? What do you guys think will be the difference on the day if we were to try and pick things apart? Do we think this is going to come down to, because I think if I remember rightly, when we were previewing Brit Bowl, we were saying this is going to be a case of hanging in there and then taking that moment, if we are seeing it from a Bristol Aztec or a Durham Saints point of view. But really, it feels like this is going to be a moment game rather, and it'll be whoever takes their opportunity, which sounds very cliche, but I don't think there's going to be much to kind of separate the two, really.
No. I think if you look at the game last year when it were UE versus Notts, there was that one play that UE had where there was blown coverage in the back, in the secondary, sorry, for the gold, and it just opened them up, and it just, from that moment when they found that big connection, they got the touchdown on the drive, then they could just score more freely, because that kind of just like took the pressure off them a little bit. I think it was in the second half, and they were just able to just calm down a little bit and just be themselves. I think that's it. I think that both of these teams know how good they are. I think that one thing that I think you can do is probably worry about the opposition a little bit too much. And I think that if either of these sides just go out, and just go, right, we know who we are. They're number one for a reason. UE, they're number two for a reason. The good sides beating each other. That's kind of the mentality they've got to take, that they are there for the reason, and then and show people why they got to the final in the first place.
Yeah. And tell us, if you're watching, who do you think?
I think all three of us are familiar with the term mentality monsters. Yeah.
Obviously got a delay there, Stuart.
I'm on a delay because of Tesco Wi-Fi. You can tell I'm back home, can't you? We're all familiar with the term of mentality monsters, and I think that's what it's going to be. Yeah, it's worrying. But I think from my coach's hat, turnovers and special teams are going to be sort of the two key aspects. And rather than think of it of who sort of makes the first mistake, well, okay, who makes that first turnover? Who makes that first big play on special teams? Is it going to be a kick return? Is it going to be a blocked punt like Isaac mentioned earlier? Who's going to, sort of kick that bigger field goal? Isaac mentioned the Durham kicker earlier. So yeah, who's going to, make that splash play to sort of turn the tide, to get one score ahead. And then another thing that coaches talk a lot about is what we call the middle eight. So again, who wins the coin toss, who possesses the ball in the last 4 minutes of the second quarter, or the first 4 minutes of the third quarter, and how that swings the pendulum in terms of the scores there. So yeah, I think turnovers, special teams, and that sort of big middle 8 minutes is going to be the key to who wins this fixture.
Awesome. And obviously who's healthy, because it's a relatively quick turnaround as well, isn't it? We don't get the insight that we would like in those sort of things, but who is healthy and who isn't for these finals, considering that they had a semi-final only this weekend. So a little bit of time, but not as much as they would like. Yeah, it's not bad, is it? That's a lifetime in American football, isn't it?
Exactly. Try and play Div 2. Well, I'll do it this year.
Or do it.
Yeah.
100%. Righto. So let's move on to the VARs then, because obviously we've had some results there this weekend as well, and this will be obviously the second of the finals that we have in Touchdown Tuesday, and that will be coming up on your screens now. So sorry if this is a complete spoiler for those who haven't been able to go and pick up on these results, but we did have some results at the weekend, and I'll come to you first here, Isaac, because we had Brunel over Warwick, and they secured themselves a place in the final, and they will be playing a in-division rival in the SGS Pride, which we will finally see the replay of this game that we were so promised at the end of the regular season that we didn't get. So take us through it. Take us through the results that we had, and what surprises did you see, or did it go as you expected?
I think we can all agree it probably went as expected. I think you'd like to have seen a shock. After Portsmouth beat NTU, you thought maybe they'd give some a bit to the Pride, but I can't see it properly on here. I'm going to just make it a big screen. 26-8 win for SGS Pride. Yeah. After their overtime win against Northumbria, and after how well Portsmouth did against NTU, you'd have probably thought, this is going to be a closer game than what it was. But I think SGS showed how good they are, showed their class a little bit, and was able to, score the points that we know they can, the offense that they have. And on the flip of that, Brunel winning 31-14 against the Warwick Wolves. I think the Wolves have the issue of they don't score a lot of points. Granted, they did against Cardiff Cobras, but I think that's more of the way that game was, because both teams scored over 35 points. So that's more of the way that game is, not what Warwick are normally like. It's not often they score a huge amount, and I think that their defense really need to show up, and they didn't. It's as simple as that. I think Brunel have just been that strong all season long that if you were going to pick who is definitely going to be in the final before the playoffs started, it would have been Brunel. You could have potentially said NTU as well, but after their injuries and stuff like that. But no, it was definitely always going to be Brunel have stamped their way in. It's definitely going to be them. And then SGS, they're going to be strong. That they are, the number 2 team in this North and South. If you mix them all together, they are the number 2 team. I think if you were to make it like a national, they'd still be the number 2 no matter what. But no, it's not a massive surprise. But yeah, it's again be good to see if we actually get the game this time.
Yeah, absolutely. Stuart, do you have similar feelings? Because obviously I think if I remember correctly, we previewed that the only shock that would come out of this would be think there would be an option would be Portsmouth coming away with it, and they obviously didn't, and we'd obviously had plenty of data points to suggest that SGS were going to overcome Portsmouth, but they were the home side, etc. So who knows? But in the end, it kind of turned out the way we thought it was going to again, didn't it?
It did, yeah. And Isaac's kind of rounded it off quite nicely. The 2 games in season, the first one was really on in the year, so SGS were potentially a little bit rusty. I know a lot of their sort of new parts were still gelling, so that score was fairly close. The second game in the season was a bit of a blowout on home turf in Bristol. So I think this one, I think it shows what travel can do to a team in terms of leveling that playing field. And I think Portsmouth will be happy with their season. I think coming into this year, they'll have gone, yeah, okay, if we make playoffs, fantastic. If we make semi-finals, that's a hell of a season for them. And, they'll have learned a lot from it going into sort of next season's endeavours. Adding a little bit more onto the Brunel-Warwick game, it was really close at the end of the first half, but that was because Warwick held more possessions. So their formidable running game really wound down the clock in the first half. Brunel committed, as they normally do, committed several penalties and sort of allowed Warwick to control the clock. In the second half, they adjusted nicely. They sort of maintained possession and controlled the clock an awful lot better, and they managed to get a couple of turnovers as well that they scored off, which is why you see that sort of elongated score of 31-14. And the Warwick score, one of them certainly was like a 70-odd yard rush from their formidable Warwick wedge, where they just give the ball to a running back. He kind of hides behind the offensive line. And then when everything looks like it's dead, he'll spurt out, and he ran the length of the field. So it's kind of almost like a tush push, but more like a rugby scrum, if that makes sense. Or as I got corrected, a rugby maul by my missus who plays rugby. So yeah, I kind of got my wrists slapped on that one. And I'm not taking any credit for it. I know SJ said on the Depth Chart Sports that I was the instigator of that formation at Warwick. I really wasn't. Don't know what SJ's talking about. He doesn't know what he's talking about in football in general. So we'll leave him to whatever he wants.
That seems like something that you do, Stuart, to be fair. Seems like the kind of terrorist football you like.
Nah.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll show you the playbooks that I had at Worcester and at Sandwell. It's definitely not 8 or 10 or 11 players. It's a different style of offense. That and the fact that I was a coach anyway. So hey, we digress. Yes, in the final, that's an interesting game. I'm really looking forward to seeing that one. Nice segue. That, did you like it? I think we're going to see what we saw in the first game in Bristol. I know we never saw the Site 5 battle because of the conditions at Site 5, with it being awful. So yeah, I think we'll see sort of that similar sort of feel. It was 20-6 to Brunel in Bristol, and I think we'll get a similar sort of close game. I think Brunel will be at full strength, and I think they'll really sort of go for it. And then it'll be interesting to see whether the victors take up Leeds Beckett in the yo-yo game, as to whether they then enter the Prem National next season.
Took the word right out of my mouth.
Yeah, absolutely. So I suppose my question to you too, and if you want to jump in first, Isaac, is there's a 14-point difference here that we know of, which was a week 5 SGS versus Brunel, and we know how slow SGS usually start on offense, and they're always really sound on defense, and then they gather up steam throughout the season. So we're talking now the middle of November. We're now in the middle of March. Is there a 14-point difference between that SGS and this SGS, and we're going to have a much closer final than we think?
It's hard to say, because there's one outlying result, and it's that Cardiff game. That 6-3 Friday Night Lights. Cardiff, I'd say, a shock win. There's the outlier. I think that on that day, I think SGS, I think Cardiff just wanted it more, if that makes sense. That kind of just, sometimes it just makes you win, just having the ability just to want something, and I think that was the case on that night. Now, obviously, being in the North, I don't watch much of these two teams, but I'd say that Brunel, maybe now it'll be 14, might be a 7-point gap now. 7, yeah. It's going to be tough. It's tough to call, because if we had had that game last week of the season and Brunel didn't have a pitch that sounds like it's, on the edge of hell. Sounds like it's in Bradford, but but definitely, like, it'd been a lot easier to tell, and I think that kind of just makes it even more intriguing, doesn't it? I think it's another great final we've got, because we just don't know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it'd be a shock if Brunel did win, if we're being honest. but it's how they're going to win. Is it going to be a close game? Is it going to be just another, Brunel kind of trademark blowout? Are they going to be able to score another 30 plus points on the team? With the way they're going, you'd expect them to, especially on a pitch that will probably help them a lot more, but it'll also help SGS a lot more. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens on Tuesday.
Matt on Instagram says, "Pride to get the win." What do you think, Stuart? You've obviously got some insight into Brunel, with plenty of your conversations with SJ and others. It feels like if SGS come along and win this, none of us are going to be surprised, but it would feel like a Brunel trip up. I don't know if that's unfair of me to say, but my gut instinct is that this is Brunel's to lose, rather, because they've been so dominant all year round, and that run game is phenomenal. That defense has been fantastic. They won't want to look at some of their the points conceded in later games, but they feel like they've got the recipe to come out winners at the end of the day.
Yeah. If I'm honest, I think if SGS win, I think I will be surprised, and that's not sort of a slight on SGS at all. I just think that Brunel will. There will be the better team on the day. Well, I don't know if they'll be the better team on the day. They'll put up the most points on the day, and that's obviously what wins your football matches. Whether they will, I know one of the guys that we speak to talks about the eye test. Brunel do a lot of motions. They do a lot of nice football. They may well look great on the field, but I just don't quite think the execution is there to sort of score as many points as Brunel. I think Brunel will execute, as I mentioned splash plays earlier. I think Brunel will score off bigger plays than SGS will. I think SGS are more sort of a drive team. They will control the clock again, and they want to sort of put together a 40, a 50, a 60-yard drive, whereas Brunel will look to bust the big play. They'll look to go deep on four verts or sort of your sail routes and stuff like that. And I'm sort of talking technical football now, so probably might lose a few listeners, but they will look to be really sorry, I forgot you were an O-lineman, Isaac. They will pass the ball. Bringing it back. I think Brunel will have too much in the tank for SGS. All things considered with SGS and their sort of new squad, whereas Brunel have a squad that have been together for 2, 3, 4 years in some cases.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting matchup, isn't it, though? Because you've got a team that in Brunel who have scored over 5 touchdowns a game every single game, except against SGS. So SGS is their lowest total by far, which is 20 points. And then you've got an SGS team that has conceded less than a touchdown a game all year, other than in the shock semi-final, quarterfinal that they had against Northumbria, which was obviously 31 points in that overtime win. So it is intriguing, even though we think we know that this is a Brunel game to lose.
And SGS they've run the luck to get here. If really that game against Northumbria, if that goes the way in overtime and Northumbria somehow get it back, because I think they were close to, weren't they? They were winning by a bit with Northumbria, going into the last few minutes, and if that goes the other way, I think we're talking about a Brunel win definitely, no matter what, aren't we? And I think but yeah, I think it's kind of the run of the playoffs, isn't it? You've got to have a little bit of luck sometimes, and I think especially in this one, because both sides are going to have experience of the day. Both last year we're at Touchdown Tuesday. They both know what it's going to be like. It's for the coaches and for majority of the players, maybe not so much SGS because they had a lot of turnover in the season, but definitely Brunel. It's got to be a thing of we've done this before. It's just like any other game kind of thing, and that's kind of the mentality they've got to take into it, and not see it as a final, but see it as just a game of football with some mates. And
the option to travel to Leeds Beckett for an option to the national.
if whoever wins doesn't do it, whoever comes second, you've got to let them have a chance. Offer it to them at least. We've got to have a new blood in the national. It's got to happen. We can't have another two teams who are competing at the same level as the top three anymore.
I think every fan of BUCS American football is desperate to see some sort of shake-up. Either the two teams at the bottom shake their program and elevate it, or we see somebody new up there. Who knows? Maybe Tonya and Co will expand the national. Who knows?
I was just looking
last year he spoke to us about doing it.
I made sure I asked him last year. Yeah.
This time last year, if you're going to go back and listen to that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think BUCS have expanded one of their other national leagues for another sport. I think they posted up on their socials. I think it was it women's rugby or men's rugby? Yeah, they've expanded. Yeah, it could have been rugby league actually. They've just expanded one of their Premiership nationals. So maybe. I was just trying to look how many teams they would expand it by as well, because there was 3 teams atop the north and 2 teams on the south. No, the other way around. There was Trent and Warwick, who were like high win percentages, but then in the south, you had Cardiff, SGS, and Brunel with win percentages above 500. So yeah, if they were going to expand it, would you put those 5 and go a 10-team Prem National? But that's probably a discussion for 2 weeks' time after we've had BUCS Big Tuesday.
Touchdown Tuesday. It was the women's rugby. Well done, Stuart. Well remembered.
Great stuff. And I think that'll be the biggest burning question out of all of this, is that we know that fantastic, they're Vars champions, amazing achievement, but actually what we all want to know is, are they going to travel to Leeds Beckett and have this fight for a national spot? Because obviously we were very disappointed that SGS decided not to last year. It turns out that the decision was right, potentially. Who knows? We've obviously power rated them. We've rated them way higher than a lot of the bottom of the Prem National in the writers' poll. But it's very interesting to see what will happen after this Touchdown Tuesday with this game. When's that? Is that in 2 weeks, that game, or is it? Do we know the date of the yo-yo game? It's usually like beginning of April, isn't it?
It's beginning of April. I want to say April 5th.
Right. Similar to the Conference Cup sort of timeline.
Yeah, but don't quote me on that.
That's all right. Right. Let's move on to the trophy. We've got Tier 1, where we've obviously had a number of results, and this is obviously, as always, a very busy graphic. So we'll try and walk you through it. But what we had was Lancashire Rams hosted Edinburgh Napier Knights and came out 13-6 victors there to book a place in the final against the Bournemouth Bobcats, who beat Hertfordshire Hurricanes in Hearts 27-15. And Stuart, we previewed this last week, and I think we predicted this, didn't we? We predicted Lancs and Bournemouth, although we felt that the most likely to be an upset would be the Edinburgh Napier Knights. But at the end of the day, we were treated to 2 fantastic semi-finals, and we ended up with a Lancashire versus Bournemouth final. Take us through these results.
I think we definitely predicted the Bournemouth victory over Hearts, although up until the 4th quarter, it potentially was not as clear-cut as 15-27, 16-27 suggests. 15-27 now I've zoomed in. Hearts were really looking like they were going to upset the apple cart at one point. I know that there was some contentious officiating decisions, is what I have seen and heard, based off both video and social media posts that took a couple of scores off the board. But at the end of the day and at the end of the game, Bournemouth come away with the sort of, a victory I think they will be happy with. I know that Coach Rains is on Instagram and has commented and corrected my earlier faux pas about jersey colours. And I think he will be happy with reaching the final. He might not potentially be as happy with sort of the overall performance, certainly the first half. I think that Hearts, really competed and really made it difficult for the Bobcats, and it's potentially the first real challenge that they've had, other than the one game against Bristol. I think that was really close in the league fixture. But yeah, they'll really go into that game, and they'll really relish that challenge against the Lancashire Rams, who really overcame adversity through this playoff run, and really sort of had their heads butted against with the Napier Knights. By all accounts from several people, this was an absolute war of attrition. Both teams playing some very sort of 1980s hard-nosed football. Napier had admitted that they hadn't seen the style of football that Lancashire play at all, because of the way that the Scottish teams play. So they'd only really practiced against it in sort of a scout team scenario. They'd never really seen it at full pace. So they were very sort of battle hardy and really sort of took it to the Lancs Rams. And then on the other side of the ball, that Lancs Rams defense really sort of shut down that Napier offense that have kind of been rampant for most of the regular season. I know they haven't put up huge numbers in the playoffs, but that's where they've really come up against more stern tests than they did in their division. But yeah, I think that one would have been a real enjoyable defensive match to get to and watch. And yeah, Lancs just really started to click in the second half, and sort of ground the clock down and sort of earned their place, I think, in finals day. And that middle game, I think, is going to be the one that we sort of really look to sort of sit down and enjoy.
Isn't it just?
Although it's the first, isn't it? Is it the 10:30
Yeah,
kickoff?
One. I think it is, isn't it? It's usually this
Yeah.
one first. But it's that defense, isn't it? Like the Lancashire Rams defense have gotten to the final, having conceded 20 points all season. That's phenomenal, isn't it? And I think that's where this battle sort of comments that you're talking about is that it's going to be really hard to score on this defense. Even if you are the Bournemouth Bobcats, which will be, we'll talk about that game in a second. But, Isaac, if you want to come in here, that we've got the results probably don't shock anybody, but the results have lent us to get to this point, which is going to be, I think we've been calling for these four teams, Premiership sides, waiting in T1 to go up, haven't we? Yeah. And what we do have is that we know that Lancashire and Bournemouth will be two of them, which is just great to know, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I think that in T1 the talent that you've got is remarkable. Look from the quarterfinals onwards, where you got Napier, Greens, Regents, the Brooks. The talent list is huge. Multiple teams that we've ranked above Prem North and South teams this year in our writers' polls. But yeah, I think it's this final is kind of what we expected again at the start. Number one in the North against, take away points and it was done like the Summer League. Number one in the South. It's definitely what we probably all expected to happen.
I think if we were to look back pre-season, this might have been a lot of our picks. Mind it as the North and South. I know that we've obviously got a green question and a Nottingham Green question in the North, as well as an Edinburgh Napier Knights. A lot of us probably would have expected this matchup this year, right, pre-season.
Yeah, exactly, and I think it shows what kind of work these teams have done off the field, because you can get that at the start of the season of this team's going to do really, really good stuff. For example, look at Leeds Beckett. The hype that was around Leeds Beckett in September and October time. Look at all these scholars are signing. Look how great the team's going to be. But you've got to go and prove it on the field. And the injury blow that Lancashire took with their QB out at the start of the playoffs, to then go and grind out a victory against MMU, do the same against Manchester, a side that they both knew really well. But then to go do it again against the Napier side that's coming off of a scrappy win against Greens. with a lot of confidence that, teams don't want to play Napier. You look at the Glasgow Tigers, they didn't want to play the Napier Knights because they know how good they are. And for Lancashire to really stand on their defence, which, you look at their DB core, really is what stands out for a lot of teams, especially the Rams. I think you can look on Instagram stories on a normal game, the amount of picks and great plays that their secondary has is remarkable. And it's something again they're going to have to lean into, because their offense hasn't been that great during this playoff run. But as many people say, defense wins championships. And again, it is this game. I think it's more of a celebration of Tier 1 than it is a final, because compared to the other two games, these sides are already promoted. They've done all the hard work, they've done the hard yards, and this is a time where both sides could be celebrated for the work they've done all season long.
Yeah, and looking at the final, as we look ahead to that, it's going to be a different final than what we would have seen had this been 4 weeks earlier, prior to a Charlie Martin injury, right? That would have been a whole different challenge for Bournemouth to come up against. But Bournemouth are going to have to try and score on this defence. And likewise, because Bournemouth's defence has been also very, very good all year, right? The first time they conceded in the postseason was against Hertfordshire Hurricanes. They've done all right for themselves as well. But sure, you expecting a close game, or do you think that this is going to be a real tough ask for Lancashire, and they've just probably overperformed in the playoffs to this point?
No, I don't think they've overperformed.
Right.
I think they have done what they have needed to do, or done what they can do with that quarterback position. I just think that Bournemouth through the third quarter and the fourth quarter will just have a little bit too much for Lancashire. So I can see it, I can see it kind of looking like the Hearts result. I still think that Lancashire will score. I still think that they'll create chances, and I think it'll be in the first half when both of these teams are sort of feeling each other out and sort of getting to know the opponents. I have a feeling that both teams will play in a similar sort of way. I have a feeling that Bournemouth might utilise personnel in the box a little bit more than Lancashire do, if I'm sort of judging the coaching staffs that I know from both teams and having seen a little bit of footage from both teams. I think Bournemouth might be a little bit more run heavy. Again, I know it sounds strange saying that about a team, sort of Lancashire team, who have a backup quarterback. I think they might be a little bit more multiple, or certainly a little bit more pass heavy. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the first half of this game. And then I think the second half is where, the war of attrition will take its toll. And I think I will see Bournemouth come out 20-something, mid-teen something victors in this game. I think Isaac's chair agrees with me as well.
Because it's interesting how it's all panned out for Bournemouth as well, isn't it? Because if I remember correctly, they had a really big bye, didn't they? They had a big break in the middle of the season, didn't they? If memory serves, because they went 5 straight, didn't they? And then they had
and then after Christmas,
didn't they have like a really big break?
They played game after game for weeks before Christmas, and then had a couple of weeks in it.
They had 6 weeks off, basically. Yeah, so the 7th of December, and then they didn't play until the 21st of Jan, and that might have been a rearranged game. But I think that's worked out quite well for them, because they've managed to get healthy in time for this playoffs, haven't they? And I've seen Sam's on IG as well, isn't he? So
I just noticed that comment.
Yeah, the loss of Charlie was and is devastating, but we are lucky to have George Hatfield. Okay, brilliant, and he has the full confidence of our team. Brilliant.
Yeah, can you imagine having two? Can you imagine having two quarterbacks like that on your roster?
Yeah,
two with National League.
We had to get
2 with National League adult contact experience. That's a phenomenal talent.
Had to get when Ian went down injured at the Bears, we had to get him to throw left-handed because we had no one else who could do it. So it kind of shows you the levels, doesn't it, really, from tier 2 to tier 1.
And I think that the coaching staff, Sam, the coaching staff and of your guys have done a really fantastic job to get you through that adversity and to get yourselves here, right? Because that could that would have upset the season of any teams, right? Any team season, and it's a fantastic job. But yeah, Bloomfield versus Reigns in the final. That's going to be fun, isn't it?
Yeah,
for sure. It'll be good to get the lowdown after that game. Will be great to get insight from both those coaches. But no, looking forward to that. Any more thoughts on the trophy and Touchdown Tuesday before we move on to previewing the Conference Cups?
No, looking forward to being there. I'll try and bring you as much as I can. We might try and partner a little bit and do things with different people. But yeah, I will. I'll be there on the day. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do, but yeah, let's leave that to a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, absolutely. Conference Cup time, isn't it? They're both in the chat on Instagram.
Yeah.
16-year history between those two, according to Coach Rains. So Northern Conference Cup, we have Cambridge versus Coventry, and we have York versus Lancaster. We said Lancs again. Lancaster Bombers. Do you want to take us through this first, Isaac? Because we didn't get your thoughts last time around, because obviously we had the quarterfinal results last time. What are you expecting in these matchups, other than Bagpipes, who hopefully he's recovered in time for the semi-finals?
I pray he's recovered.
Go on.
Please DM us if he has recovered, because I need a video of him playing his bagpipes as a ball gets launched in the air. So I think we've got a lot more to go off the Cambridge Coventry game, since these two are division rivals and we've seen this game happen before. Again, it's going to be close. I think Coventry let themselves down at the end of the season, really, with how they ended it, and a loss to DMU, who eventually lost to York, and it kind of spiraled out for them a little bit. I think Cambridge will be confident. They got a massive win against Sunderland last time out. But yeah, it's going to be a tight one. Both teams will know each other really well, and they'll be able to just, it'll be a balanced game. I think. I don't think it'll be
6-0 was this
exactly.
game in the regular season. There's 6 points in it in two teams that have had an up and down season, haven't they, to say the least?
And then you had the bagpipes to that as well. Who knows how many points that adds onto your tally? Who knows?
Definitely
and then
advantage.
maybe 14. On the other side of the bracket, York, Lancaster, two sides that were in the same division, I think 4 years ago now. So sides will know each other really well. War of the Roses, come on, York. The best sides of the Pennines.
The wrong side of the Pennines.
You're outnumbered
here. Yeah, but it's fine because I know I'm right. Lancaster, I think they were angry, I think is the right word, after what happened with the coin toss and everything there, and took it to LJMU. Could there be a petition to get them promoted? I think so. They've proven it now. I think LJMU were on the beach for that game. It looks like it anyway. It's only scoring 2 points. York, on the other hand, 30-0. New head coach. He's done great this season. Got promoted and now making a great playoff charge as well. So that again is going to be a great game to see who comes out on top. And hopefully it's York and you guys next week will have to wear like white roses, and we'll get you a tattoo of a white rose.
Just will never happen.
I'm not signing. Not signing to that.
I'll come wearing red if I need to. And I think that, as you've rightly said, we know what we're probably going to get out of Cambridge Coventry. So really, all the talking points are around this York Lancaster game, and this is the one where there's plenty of burning questions, isn't there? Is that Lancaster have only faced two other sides, right, prior to that game against LJMU Fury, who came from the same division. So is it a case of Lancaster are actually way better than their division, and the division's actually down, and therefore this is going to be a really close game with York, or are Lancaster absolutely a T1 side lingering in Tier 2, and it's going to be a really fun game for the Lancaster Bombers, who are going to be facing York. Part of me thinks that actually the Northwest tier is not that great, and Lancaster are going to make a really good game of this, and they might actually be a really good team that are now going to linger another year in Tier 1, due to a technicality. Do you feel the same, Isaac, or do you think this is going to be closer than we can dare to predict?
I think all divisions have been quite poor in this North.
It's true.
This North Tier 2. I think especially the East and the West, when you only get a limited amount of games, you've only got 4 teams in one conference, and you have to play. It's like Scotland, and it's like Scottish football. And do you know what I mean? Like how really good are Celtic and Rangers? We don't know because they play the same teams about 7 times a year. It's the same way like with Div 2, especially the North East. The West, I think Lancashire played 3 games in the regular season. I think this year alone has been poor just because there is not enough games. And you can't really get a read, and teams can't really build or get any momentum because you think you got a game and then all of a sudden it's just dead. But yeah, I think it's definitely easier to read the Cambridge game. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be tough just because, again, these sides haven't played that much football. There's not a lot of film to go off. It's, for coaches like to try and build something, it's going to be very difficult to do.
Yeah. A 3-0-2 team in York facing a 2-0 team in the regular season. That's the type of data we get to go off. So it's not great for us to try and.
And 2 of their wins were against YSJ as well. Yes. So it's like
yes.
I was trying to work out what it was bugging me so much about that graphic, and then I realised that the York logo was way too high and it wasn't balanced, and that's what was doing my head in. So sorry to all the graphic designers that have seen that.
Anyway, moving on to the Southern Conference.
There's someone talking me about this one, Stuart. I can't.
There's something wrong about this one. Anyway, we have Swansea versus UWE Bullets 2 this week. Reading, sorry.
No, we don't.
I'm reading backwards once again. So we've got Reading versus UWE, and then we've got QMBL versus Swansea. Some very, very fun matchups for this semi-final, and obviously you'll be watching the Reading game.
Yeah, I'm actually good. I can't go to both. I wish I could just like slice myself in half, and half of me go down to Quimble and half of me go to Reading. But no, the Quimble Swansea game. I think I said sort of last week about Swansea really wanting to get back some momentum after that loss to Gloucester in the regular season, and they didn't really cover themselves in a whole lot of glory against Surrey, only coming out 7-6 victors. And having seen Quimble play Gloucester with that game being as tight as it was, I think we're going to see an over-under of 21 points here. I don't think this is going to be an absolute barnstormer. So again, defense wins championships. I think defense will get these guys to the final. Which defense that is, I'll sit on the fence and get some massive splinters in my backside.
You've seen that, Stuart. So Ben's put on YouTube. Apparently, the QMBL QB used to play for Swansea, so that's a very nice little nugget and storyline for this matchup.
Depends how long ago as well as to how well he knows that defense then. But yeah, again, good knowledge. Cheers, Ben. Appreciate that. And we'll try and talk about that on next week's show. As you alluded to, though, I have a free Sunday. My lad isn't actually playing competitive rugby. He's only got training. And I heard that Depth Chart Sports are live streaming this one. So I'll go and do some co-coms with their head honcho Tebs. So yes, I'll be driving down, carpooling with him, and I'll be on co-coms. So for those of you that have heard Stuart talked about on the Depth Chart Sports, I'll be voicing it as well. So really looking forward to that. So a little bit of a backstory as well. I actually know both head coaches. So the head coach of Reading and Bullets both played under me when I coached at Sandwell. So I kind of always thought about going down to this fixture. And then I'd learned that they were live streaming it. So I was like, yeah, go on, let's go down. 2 birds, 1 stone, watch a fantastic game of football, and also get to talk about it as well. So what am I looking forward to? I'm looking forward to seeing what both Brian and Sam have done with their programs. Obviously, Reading got relegated last season. Brian will want to have bounced straight back up to Tier 1 with his team. And then obviously look to have gone on a good run through the Conference Cup as well. So, first box ticked. second box, what can I now achieve in the playoff football? And Sam, as we've already alluded to on Isaac's podcast, Sam's again a bit of a mentality monster. He wants to do things the right way. He just missed out on gaining promotion, if I remember correctly. He will really want to go out and win this playoff competition, and sort of have that feather in his cap to say, look, lads, look, players, this is what we can do. Let's really work hard, because I am pretty sure that there is a female player on the team. Let's go and finish strong, put our yardstick out ahead of next season. Yeah, next season it's promotion or not really, and let's really put the Bullets 2s in the frontal lobe of people's minds. So it's not just the Bullets challenging for a Premiership national title, it's the 2s as well, really looking to build and grow and develop as a squad.
It's a momentum builder, isn't it, for that program in particular? That 3 of these 4 teams are the promoted sides, aren't they? Reading, Swansea, and Quimble are promoted. UE, it's to take that momentum into next year, and as you say, highly likely to be joined by Plymouth next year. If we have a quick geography lesson in the middle of that, then they can go in there expecting to try and push for promotion next year, and their foes from last year will be will be who they see again next year, won't it? Because I think Plymouth pipped them last year as well, didn't they? So this is momentum, isn't it? If anything,
yeah.
But the same for Reading. That's the interesting thing, because Reading are trying to turn it around. So it's all to play for there, really. Even though Reading's got that promotion, they don't want to be back here, do they? And that little nugget from Ben around the inside story on Quimble Swansea, that's delightful. That definitely piques my interest in that game. So any thoughts from you, Isaac, for the Southern Conference Cup, or have you frozen? It's definitely frozen.
Definitely frozen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, makes a change. It's not me.
Makes a change. He must be on the Tesco Wi-Fi as well. Brilliant. Let's see if we can remove him.
No, leave him there. Oh no, buffering now.
Just buffering. Let's see if I can remove him.
While he's gone, shall I go last person standing?
Yeah, go for
it. Unfortunately, no change. So both Ben and Alexander went through. They both picked Pride and just about squeaked through against Portsmouth Destroyers. There was 6 other entrants, of which 1 person went with Warwick over Brunel. Everybody else also picked winners. No, they didn't actually. I lie. Someone picked Napier Knights over Lancashire. So of the 6, it was a 4-2 victory for winners versus losers. So yeah, what have they got? They've got 8 teams to choose from this weekend. No, I was right. Yeah, 8 teams to choose from. So let's see who they actually pick. Isaac's back now.
I've got a suggestion.
Oh, go on.
I think, is it you down to your final 2?
Yeah.
What you need to do is go, right, lads, you need to pick one every single game of Touchdown Tuesday. And you've just and that's how you decide it. And whoever wins that, if it's whatever 2-1 or whatever,
I reckon EP Sports would cough up another voucher.
Yeah.
Anyway, you told me that, I'd have cared about it more.
Yeah, let's see.
Yeah,
let's see what their Div 2 knowledge is like. Let's get them to choose a Div 2 team first, and then if they're both a Touchdown Tuesday, we'll reassess, because we've already found out what the coin toss can do to 2 players, haven't we? So yeah, I don't want to be doing a coin toss on BUCS Touchdown Tuesday.
No, the last thing we'll do is a coin toss. I think we will figure it out some way. But well done to those 2 for getting this far. Now, some of us can't make it this far, can they, Isaac? Some of us get involved and fall to an ARU team back in week 7.
No, I've never forgiven them. I'm not sure I'll ever forgive
Aren't you glad
you should?
Aren't you glad you came back on now, Isaac?
I know, this is it. This is what I come for, just to get bullied on my Wednesday evenings.
Absolutely. That's what we're here for. Brilliant. So Touchdown Tuesday is upon us. What a fabulous day that is. And we know of announcements that are going to happen in the coming days, which I know all of you are going to love. So we look forward to hearing of them and sharing them with you. And I hope those of you who are going down enjoy it. I know Stuart's going to be there and we'll be keeping everybody up to date over our socials. So if you don't have the time to keep on top of the live stream, keep an eye on our socials. We'll keep you up to date on the day. We'll be trying to support you as much as possible on the day where we do it to try and get that all through.
Come and say hi if you see me as well.
I'll
try and wait at IBB merch. Come and say hi, tap me on the shoulder, and remember, look after your valuables if you're going to Touchdown Tuesday this year.
Yep, let's not have a repeat of last year, please. But yes, nonetheless, we will obviously be back next week. Whether it'll be Wednesday, we don't know. Depends on whether Stuart's awake on Wednesday to do that after Touchdown Tuesday. But we will be back next week for sure to review what happened on Touchdown Tuesday, and obviously we'll be looking to head hopefully to a yo-yo game and also some conference cups from T2 as well. We are hoping we will also have some confirmed fixtures across the summer season, and we'll be able to come back to you on that. And I think what we'll probably do is we'll probably come on a separate video for that to kind of break it all down, and then we'll be in preview mode for the summer season. As I mentioned already, head over to our YouTube channel for the WFFL finals review there that Aaron and the gang did over there. So please be sure to check that out. Any BUCS weekend this weekend? Because technically isn't a weekend, is there? Okay.
I'm going to try a super duper long episode, but we'll
Awesome.
focus more on Touchdown Tuesday rather than this. I'm sorry, Div 2, Tier 2. I'm sorry. However, Touchdown Tuesday is vastly more important. I think most people would agree.
Awesome, and I think the guests that you get for those videos are just as valuable to get from a viewership point of view. So brilliant. Thanks again, guys, for joining us and providing everyone with your insight. Thank you for those who got the chat, which is basically a Coach Rains and Sam Bloomfield reunion. But no, I appreciate all the comments and certainly the insight from Ben on YouTube. Join us in the chat every week, and we'll be back next week for sure to bring you up to date with everything that's going on in the contact world. So thank you very much, guys, once again.